my good friend Leonie Appel, who lives on the Sunshine Coast of Australia. So I just wanted to have an interview with her because she's into multiple things and she does train children to see blindfolded. How did you get into that, or what started you into this field?
My grandchildren in particular were having multiple experiences when they were very, very young. And our whole family has been involved in extrasensory perception for a long time anyway. So we were familiar with their experiences and all sorts of phenomena was happening around them. Having said that, they are, as is our whole family, hypersensitive to life in general. So they're extremely sensitive children. And we've been given the labels of ADHD and autism on different levels of the spectrum. So they had difficulty coping with all this phenomenon, even though it was familiar to me in particular. And I just wanted to help them.
Yeah, you had a child also, right?
Yeah, I wanted to empower them. So I connected up with Mary Rodwell for my own regression and my own experiences to deal with them. And at one stage she contacted me and she said, have you seen this, the blindfold work? And she said, I'm actually getting a lady from Canada come out and hold a course here. Are you interested? And I said, I'm really interested because I saw it as a massive tool to help my grandchildren in particular, to help them govern their sensitivities, to know what their experiences were about. So it had lots of layers to it. It wasn't just about seeing blindfolded, but I could see it as a really good tool, especially for spectrum kids, to not to lessen their sensitivity, but just to understand it and level things out. And that's worked really well. And it helped them at one stage when they were going to mainstream schooling. It was helping them with that. Especially my granddaughter, she started to excel with reading and writing after she started the work. And they've been practicing ever since.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes. But that's why I got into it. It was mainly to help them because I had suffered and my children had suffered through mainstream schooling because we struggled with dyslexia and all sorts of elements attached to this. And I just didn't want them to have to deal with that, really. They do to some level, of course. They're still extremely sensitive. They're like little octopuses with tentacles everywhere. So all these really highly sensitive children have information bombarding them from every level, which is, tasting, colour and all those extrasensory perceptions that they do have. So I feel that the blindfold work reins that in, and it gives them self-esteem because they can do something that a lot of other people can't do. So it gives them a sense of self-esteem that they have this ability, and what else can they do? If they can do this, what else can they do? So that's what I love about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially Seth when he was driving the car and Layla also baking in your kitchen, and wow, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting. He's like you. He with most of us, especially me, with most of the kids I teach, they have to keep up some sort of practice.
Yes.
Or they start to lose it. Whereas Seth, for some reason, and everyone's different, he doesn't. He can not do it for 6 months and pick it up.
Wow.
But and Layla can't do that. She has to practice. But and the little boy I have on Mondays, I haven't seen him for 2 weeks, and he couldn't see it all yesterday, and I've been seeing him for nearly 12 months.
Wow.
It doesn't take long for the sight to come in after a few exercises, but if they don't practice enough, it diminishes because they're not exercising that area. And I get a little bit sad when that happens. because yeah, for them too, and they get a little bit disappointed, but you know, it only takes like half an hour and it starts to open up again, but it can close down, so it's something you've got to work at, as you know.
But Leonie, you mostly do kids, and you're mostly trying to help kids in different aspects. So I've seen multiple videos of the different things that you're doing with them, and it's not all just the blindfold seeing, from what I can.
No. Like I've said to you before, I have to read the room. I plan different things because all of my children that I have had experiences on some level, and are all deemed as autistic on certain levels. So they are, because they're highly sensitive, they're exposed to different things through the week before they come to me, and I do not know what they're going to be like when they walk in the door, because these things really affect them. So I set up different scenarios, different exercises for them to do with remote viewing, telekinesis, and the blindfold stuff to keep them interested, because if they get bored, like anybody, if you get bored, it starts to shut down. So I have to keep it interesting for them. And I don't know what I'm going to do with them until they literally walk in the door, and I connect to their energy and I can feel them. So whatever exercise I set up for them, I'm actually going with them, and I can see what they can see. I can feel what they can feel. So it's a very organic process, but that's that connection of energy when you're doing this sort of work energetically, that can, if you're not careful, you've got to be careful not to drain your own supply, because it's pretty full on at times. It's really rewarding, so rewarding.
What were you doing for Grant? That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that was fun. He said he dreamt of setting up some kind of blindfold Olympics with all the different people that are doing these practices all over the world.
Yeah.
And none of this is supposed to be competitive, because then ego's involved. That's not what it's about.
No.
But I thought for a bit of fun that I would do that for him. And I have got a lot of autistic kids that are not good at self-expression.
Yeah.
And with anything I do with the children, I do it as a fun, upbeat.
It's a game.
Yeah. It's a game. It's an exercise. So they don't think they're being controlled. Not another adult controlling them, basically. That we're all here having fun on the same level. So I set up the budget backyard blindfold Olympics, and it wasn't to prove anything, because we know what we can do. They know what they can do.
It's just for fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't need to be scrutinized, because we're not out to fool anybody.
No.
And what would be the point? I always say, what would be the whole point of that? It wouldn't make sense to me. So some of them felt comfortable doing it, and others didn't feel comfortable doing it. So we hammed it up, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
We ham things up. We put music on and jump around to It's Raining Men and Hallelujah, and run around and do stupid, funny things, because it lightens the mood. And it puts the brain into that almost like an alpha state, because you're euphoric, like that state of euphoria, as you know, lets the information flow. But as soon as you think you're being scrutinized, and the kids get that a lot, they're accused of lying and cheating, and that's not nice.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah.
So the whole point of the exercise for Grant was to show how I operate with the kids, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. And they half try. It's like, do we have to do this? Like, come on, you're going to be on YouTube. and yeah, it was a little bit, or very organic in a way, as organised as I tried to be. But you can never be organised with ADHD kids. Never.
Oh my God.
What do you mean you want me to be predictable? That's not going to happen. Anyway, we had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
They did really enjoy it. And I knew I'd get a bit of scrutiny around it, because it's not proving anything. But I wasn't, like I said, we weren't out to prove anything. It was all very rough around the edges. because we know what we can do. They know what they can do.
Yeah,
We
that's what
don't need to prove it.
I've got nothing to prove to anybody, and that's what
No.
it's the same thing. You're just doing it for yourself and to show what other people is possible and how much it helps kids and helps anybody. The blind see the whole thing. That's the only reason we're doing it, correct?
And a lot of the parents, the children I teach, don't like them on camera. So I have one family in particular that I use all the time because their mother's very for putting it out there. And I have been seeing them for 2 years, and if it wasn't working in a positive way for them and they weren't getting results, she wouldn't keep bringing them back. And I've had other kids for that long too, but they just don't like being on camera.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't keep coming back if they weren't getting. I keep getting really good feedback from the parents, and it does affect they become more centered too. They're more centered, and it's easier to quieten them when they're doing this because they're exercising that part of the brain.
Wow.
I'm getting a lot of really positive feedback from the parents.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're looking for more kids in Australia? You prefer doing it. I do a lot on Skype, but I think you prefer doing it one-on-one with the kids.
Because I keep getting the spectrum children,
Mm-hmm.
and I know why. Because, like I said, that's our territory. We know that because we have that in the family, so I understand that.
Yeah.
And it's very sensory for me too. I need to be in the room with the child so I can just be completely organic and jump from one thing to the next. Mm-hmm. I find it difficult to do online. I've tried it online.
You just
but it hasn't. And again, they were autistic, so it didn't. And I don't think the children can connect that way really well either. So I call them unique children. Every child is unique, but because of their sensitivities, teaching them is completely different to what I teach. And I've taught, and I don't know, in inverted commas, normal children. I hate using those words.
I know, because none of us are really normal.
Who pick it up very quickly and can move forward really quickly and really, really stable with it. And because they're that way, whatever they're dealing with in the world enhances. It depends on what the child's dealing with in the world. I had one little girl for three sessions, and then I send them 3 or 4 sessions. Then I send them home with exercises to do. And it does depend on the parent how much time they want to put into it as well. This mother was very dedicated. And she did a really good job, and she had the little girl riding her bike around the streets where they live. And she went to a party and she played pin the tail on the unicorn. And she said you should have seen everyone's jaws hit the floor when twice she got it exactly on the spot. And she was using their blindfold. Yeah, so she was so proud of herself that she could do this.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, and that affects their self-esteem.
For sure.
I know there's the abuse of ego and everything around these things, but kids, it's all about them feeling empowered, hey? It's about them because they're constantly disempowered, and especially the spectrum. It's like, you're stupid, you're dysfunctional, Yeah. We get that a lot, and I got that all through my schooling. But to be told, wow, you're amazing, oh, you can, wow, So it's a self-esteem thing, and that enhances everything about them once they feel good about themselves, doesn't it? Yeah, I think, like with the sight work, because it's has evidence for people that are experiencing it. Yes. It's more believable for them too, especially mainstream and kids. Mm-hmm. If it's happening in real time, they believe it.
Yes.
It's even like when I'm doing the telekinesis with the kids, they think I'm doing it. They don't believe that they're doing it. But if they're experiencing themselves in real time and the evidence is in front of them, I think that's, whereas remote viewing is still a little bit magical, especially for them. There's a lot of similarities, around all of these modalities, but they're still separate. And I think it's an individual thing. That's my opinion. That it's just an individual thing. It's the way you perceive in general, and how your own mechanism works, and how you could work with that. I think if you try and go against that, so going against your own flow, that's when you start having problems. It's got to be a lot of intuition involved.